Families can be together forever through Heavenly Father's plan. Families can be together forever through Heavenly Father's plan. Families can be together forever through Heavenly Father's plan. Families can be together forever through Heavenly Father's plan. Families can be together forever through Heavenly Father's plan.
You must burn the book.
I cannot burn the book.
And pretty soon the women at the office start looking better and better, and your family looks worse and worse, and before you know it, boom, you've lost everything.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. As it's Super Bowl Sunday, I'm not expecting anybody to be on YouTube today, but if possible, we'll give you something fun. As you've already identified from the title, assuming that it is what I think it will be. Whoso Mormon lusts after a woman? Something like that. It comes from Matthew chapter 5, verse 28, and 3 Nephi 12:28. It's the Jesus character saying, "But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." And as the Book of Mormon is in Reformed Egyptian, it's amazing how it's exactly translated the same from the 1769 King James Version of the Bible from Greek. It's amazing. It's Book of Mormon, so true. And so we don't have the Reformed Egyptian to see which words were used, but we do have the Greek. The Greek, let's see, epithum mesai is the word for lust, and it's defined as covet. So if you recall your 10 Commandments, thou shalt not commit adultery, but they also have, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Well, that's the lust part. It's amazing. Reformed Egyptian and Greek are exactly the same when translated. Wow. Who would have thought? I mean, this is like earth-shattering linguistic science news here, and Mormons are just sitting on it. So, should I do copyright first? Yes, we'll do copyright first. YouTube has their policy guidelines and such that when people are making a video, YouTube does not want you to take content from other YouTube sources and use them in your video, regardless of the copyright laws. YouTube becomes a copyright law unto themselves, as they refuse to acknowledge that they're a public domain site. Now, it's true that all my videos, as well as everybody else's who put videos on YouTube, are the copyright owners of our videos. But because we're putting them out into the public domain, we're saying you guys have free access to obtain copies of our material. And so I don't care if you have a known YouTube downloader site that you utilize. Get all my stuff. I warn you, there's over 2,000 videos on just this channel. It takes a lot of gigabytes. It's actually over several terabytes. And so it's a large storage device that you need to obtain. YouTube does have them, but they're expensive. Yeah, I have no problems because I understand the copyright law. Copyright law is just to help ensure that as the creator of the content, I'm the one who receives the majority of royalties for the sales of my product. And so that's the difference. You notice YouTube has a TV channel thing, premium, whatever. I would subscribe to it only when they were showing Cobra Kai, the TV series. Cobra Kai has left YouTube and gone to Netflix, so I got the Netflix subscription so that I could watch Cobra Kai. And thus I have no need for YouTube's channel to pay for it. But those materials, because you have to pay for it, if you don't pay for it, you cannot obtain your own free copy because you have to pay for it. That's the difference that YouTube is having conflicts, a mental struggle with, as they want to violate the law, but they're running into a conflict with the law. And so, yeah, they also have movies that you can purchase, songs that you can purchase online to listen to and watch. Those you have to do so. But once you've paid for them, now you are free and to obtain your own physical copy for your own use, as long as you've paid. YouTube doesn't want that either. And it applies across the board for all forms of aesthetics. Aesthetics is simply art, and regardless of the medium you use for art, whether it's videos, music, books, and paintings, drawings, even crayon. You know, your children, when they do a crayon art, that is copyrighted. That belongs to your child. Your child owns the copyright to that. But as parents, you can certainly profit off of your kids. But if you want your kids to love you, I don't recommend profiting off your children. And when it comes to adult content, everybody calls it pornography now. And it hasn't changed just because the portrayal changes, because in videos, in music, in books, paintings, sculptures, etc., it's all different content, but it's all art when it uses an artistic medium. Videos are a digital medium. We now are moving into streaming, digital streaming. Still, it's an art form. And you'll see at the beginning of movies or at the end of movies the copyright law, warning, danger, Will Robinson. You can't copy this video that you purchased. Yes, I can. I can purchase a DVD, convert it into digital, and store it on a storage device so that I don't have walls of DVDs. Because it's my content, I bought it, it's for my personal use. Now, I can't do bootleg copies and sell them. That's illegal. That's the difference. And that's why copyright laws were created, was to protect the creator of content so that they can ensure that they get the money for them. And in my particular case, I try to give everything away for free. It's knowledge, and I don't want people to have to pay for knowledge. And so pornography, adult content, same scenario. And yet you still see various companies, governments, groups, religions who try to illegally destroy adult content material, which is protected copyright. Now, if they choose to give it away for free, okay. Make it on the public domain, okay. But people are tricked into community standards, is what it's called. And I tried looking for that community standards thing because they were picking and choosing from the Supreme Court ruling on obscenity. And I'll go over those three for you. The Supreme Court decision had a little checklist of 3 items to determine whether an artistic work, do you understand this? An artistic work is not an artistic work. This was their trap, and the religious community and those who are anti-porn fell for it. But 1, whether the average person applying contemporary community standards would find that the work, what's a work? Aesthetics, taken as a whole, appeals to the prurient interest. And so that's why you see, I can't find it when I wanted to find it, there were some hilarious signs though, of which I will not be sharing with you. But community standards has been used, especially here in Utah, as adult content material, puts a disclaimer or warning that you have to acknowledge that it doesn't offend community standards. That's where this comes from. But you notice that they put work. All work is aesthetic. We're getting to it. 2, whether the work depicts or describes in an offensive way sexual content or excretory functions as specifically defined by applicable state law. This is why they had X, XX, and XXX. X was just your softcore, hey, there's nudity. XX, penetration. XXX, that excretory functions. And it has been parentheses, the syllabus of the case mentions only sexual conduct, but excretory functions are explicitly mentioned on page 25 of the majority opinion. And here it is. Here's the little mockery to those who filed the lawsuit. And I believe it's Miller versus California. Whether the work, whether the aesthetic copyrighted content taken as a whole lacks literary aesthetic, artistic aesthetic, political or scientific value. They forgot educational, because there was a time where material had to have a medical doctor talking about the need for safe sex or whatever to justify its existence, to be sold in certain community standards areas. But do you not see how they played the religious right for chumps? Whether an aesthetic value taken as a whole lacks aesthetic value. It can't happen. There's no such thing. You may not like something, that doesn't mean it's not aesthetic. And that's the whole point. And yet, despite this, you notice that there's no input about the dangers to children who are exposed. There's not a danger to men in the frontal temporal lobe, or their eyes dilating, or any of the other crap that psychologists are wanting to claim makes pornography in its artistic medium completely different from all other artistic mediums. When you have, well, we won't go down that path. And so all this paranoia and burn the witch mentality, mob mentality against pornography is idol worship. And I've gone over that with you. So let's go back to the scripture to find out what's really going on here. Because as I told you, it's desire or coveting rather than some perverted, mutated love that people are redefining it as. Whoso looketh. Now, people have disregarded their grammar, or they got poor grades in grammar, as they think, oh, I can't look upon a woman. As a Mormon teenager, we had our priest quorum advisor. He couldn't be the I won't get into it. It's the current church's administrative system. He would tell us in public, as he himself got caught by us, that it's okay to look once because women are beautiful, but what was it? Once is fine, twice means you're a man, 3 times you're a pervert. I think that's how it went. And so his logic, based upon that thinking, was that when you see a woman, you stare at her for an indefinite period of time, and you're covered. You're not creepy at all. Am I getting women back to my audience or my channel again? Have I convinced women that I'm on your side? that I'm non-threatening. And so, Mormons have taken this incorrectly. It's okay to look at a woman. It doesn't matter the level of clothing either. It's okay. They're in the image of our Heavenly Mother, and you're not supposed to go, oh my God, it's my Heavenly Mother. Oh, gross. I'm so sick and deprived. And I can't understand the counter argument from women who have fallen prey to this counter argument that, what about your mother? What about your sisters? What about your daughters? That woman is not either of those, any of those, which is why I'm looking. Sorry, women, the argument does not hold. There's a reason why we get married and have babies. It's because you're not our sister, daughter, or mother. And so, here's the part that nobody understands because they don't know Greek. Woman. Notice it's not virgin. Remember, there's this other passage. A virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Jesus Christ, not Emmanuel. Well, yeah, there's a big difference between a virgin and a woman. And our society doesn't care. They consider females as if you have it's confusing because everybody defines it in their own special way. Again, not understanding. In science, there's what's called asexual reproduction, which it's from the Greek meaning without. So asexual, without sex. And so it therefore, in the contrary, defines sexual. If you're familiar with the church's law of chastity, thou shalt have no sexual relations except with your husbands or wives to those whom you are. It's now those whom you are legally and lawfully wedded according to God's law, His law, the Lord's law, which is section 132 for 10 virgins. Not 10 women, 10 virgins. And so it's assumed in the church that you can't even see a woman naked or you're a bad guy. You've violated the law of chastity. And women have a monthly cycle for things. Men have an every 7-second cycle for things, as the joke goes, which is not true, but that's the joke. And yet the church shames us, wants to make us feel guilty for our natural bodies. They're body shaming, literally. And yes, there's a whole bunch of other abuses tied with it. And so the church, in their For Strength of the Youth, orders children, because that's the youth, to dress in a certain way. The church is requiring uniforms for children. And body shaming. And they claim that it's for their protection from the evil predators and so forth, but that's not how it works. People assume that if a man looks on a woman, that's what sexually excites him. Not the case. Not the case. We get sexually excited all on our own, without a woman around. It's what happens as the signals are sent to our brain that it's time. That our brain then has all sorts of thoughts and thinking in the frontal lobe that create what's called a fetish. And in our current society, because of this lack of sexual education, people assume that sexual identity is anything other than actual sex. Because if asexual means without sex, sexual means sperm and egg joining into one, producing offspring. That can only be done one way. Yes, test tubes, but again, it's the same process. You still have to get the sperm out, you still have to get the eggs out. But if you don't unite the sperm and the egg, it's not sex. It's what's called masturbation. Do you understand this? The Greeks understood it, and the Reformed Egyptians understood it. Because a woman is a female who's conceived and born children. If you have not conceived and born children, you're a virgin. And so, yes, women, if we catch you at the right time of the month, you won't get pregnant. You're still a virgin. Don't tell your parents. And I'm not encouraging underage women to cheat the system, because it leads to other problems. As if a woman does consent, she has to understand that she has to give consent for the rest of her life. Because guys don't just do it once and say, hey, wow, thanks, see ya. They don't call you back, but it's for that reason, that they just needed a release and you happened to be there at the time that they needed it. That's why guys have to work all week and work for the weekend. And out in the world, because Mormons certainly don't go to bars. Got that Zion curtain anyway. Well, they've torn it down now, but that's the whole point, that the world goes to a bar or to a discotheque, which are no longer in existence in America. Because according to Bloom County, that died on the 13th or the 23rd, I can't remember which day, in October 1983, the day disco died. Bloom County, I miss you guys. I voted for Bill and Opus in my first presidential election because the independent candidate, I can't remember his name now, but he received death threats for him and his children and his family, and so he said, I can't handle this, I got to protect my family. And yeah, you're not worth it if you can't sacrifice your life for your country. So gave up on him and had no interest in the dichotomous categorization of conservative versus liberal. Anyway, and so is this talking about virgins then? No, it's not. It's talking about married women who've had babies. To lust, covet. It's talking about the commandments, the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not commit adultery. And here it's saying you're not supposed to covet another person's wife. That's it. That's all. Now you're probably going, wait, no, there are scriptures that talk about fornication. Again, I refer you to the Greek. The Greek for fornication, if you cut off the occasion, you have forn. What does that almost sound like? Porn. Yeah. I don't understand why Greek doesn't just define porn. Instead, Scott and Liddell refers you to prostitute. And so everybody then assumes the modern definition of prostitute to apply to the scripture. No, because prostitute is also 2 Greek words combined into one. 2 great tastes that taste great together. Pro means before, in front of. Statute, statue. Because statutes were originally written, well, carved in stone. Statue, a work of art in stone. And so what they're talking about is the Greek tease of women who had no man to take care of them, because women are not allowed to own businesses, own land, own property. They have to be taken care of. They pretty much are the property. And so when your spouse dies, there's no brothers to take care of you. There's no other man who wants you. What do? Thus came what we now call prostitution. Anciently, in the Greeks and Roman period especially, such women would dedicate themselves to temple service to be taken care of, and thus same sexual activity. Thus came sacral prostitution, which is incorporated in the biblical text for that reason of when it was written. It's an anachronism, because people can't find evidence of sacral prostitution prior to, though there have been marriage sealings in ancient temples of Egypt and Assyria, Mesopotamia, and the consummation of those marriages within the temple walls. That's where the practice in the Greeks and the Roman period got started. And so when you get to the passage of Samuel, who's given up to the temple to be taken care of by Eli and his 2 sons, Eli is chastised by the Lord for his 2 sons having sex in the wrong room of the temple. That's an anachronism. It's referring to the Greek or Roman period of when the book was written. I'm surprised other scholars haven't caught on to that. But they assume incorrectly that the practice was practiced prior to. And so, before the statue, that's all it is. In front of the statue. And so, pornography is an art museum, an aesthetic place, an aesthetic work. and it's usually placed in a pornographium, if museums were to be called as such. But yeah, any art form. It doesn't have to be naked women having sex, blah blah blah. I hope the asexual definition with the sexual definition helped understand, so that I don't have to go into detail with men having a fetish because of their biological. Yeah, it varies per guy. My uncle had married a Barbie doll wife, had Barbie doll girls, and one day just decided in the 80s, I'm gay. Yes, he decided. Again, the only way to have sex is to produce his 3 girls. Anything else is masturbation. And so he justified it with my dad, who, went into a homophobic frenzy. And then lashed out at me for what his brother did. But anyway, now, my parents thought I was gay. I did the video of why I wear pink. Yeah, I'm wearing pink. And it has nothing to do with gay. It had to do with Beth from kindergarten. I don't want to get into that because I'm going to cry. But my uncle claimed that he had known it all along and was just in denial. Because as a boy, he didn't want to go work on the farm with my dad and their father, my grandpa. He wanted to stay at home and do woman's work. And so he justified abandoning his family to become gay because of outward appearance characteristics of doing woman's work? What? Yeah, it doesn't hold water. But yeah, he doesn't understand the difference between a fetish and science. There is no gay gene. And this is not for the purpose of hating people and wanting to punish people and discriminate and all that. We're all human beings. Nobody should be discriminated against. Nobody should be victimized. That's what I'm trying to warn with all of these discriminatory categories, is that the bullies gave you those categories and you're embracing those categories. And in so doing, you are falling prey to the bullies who are segregating you. They're purposely trying to identify you as distinct from them, as the bullies claim they're the normal people. You are segregated from the normal people. And I don't like that. We're all human. And so in Utah, several years ago, changed the discriminatory laws to include other groups, they made it worse. Because now they'll have to perpetually add to that list until eventually it will collapse on itself. Because there will be people who get missed from that group listing and will be denied justice. And then there will be those in the group that'll just claim, oh, religious freedom, I'm Mormon, I don't like you, and so you're offensive to my religious freedom, and so I'm not going to, serve you or provide you with goods and services at my store, or I'm going to shun you in my community, and blah, blah, blah. This is how bullies work and operate. They're trying to separate so they can destroy. And you guys are falling for it by allowing the categorization. You need to understand whether you're of a particular race, nationality, creed, religion, sex, in the sense of male or female, and sexual preference, which is fetish. You're all human, all equally deserving of rights. And so, yeah, we're finding out that the people in charge are purposely attacking, murdering those of a nationality or racial discrimination. Because coronavirus is worse for those who are not white. And those who are getting the vaccines are whites. The majority of them are women even. And so we can see there's an attempt to purge America of all those who are not white. And that's a crime. People need to be imprisoned and capital punished for this, because they're in positions of government. But nobody's doing it. Our justice system has failed us. So please understand this. Your parents didn't make you gay. You're not gay. Your science, your DNA tells you your identity. Don't deny science. This needs to be understood. So, a gay couple are not having sex. They're masturbating. And the bathroom issue, oh my God. Can we not make unisex bathrooms? You know, have locked stalls, separate, I don't know. It can be done. I know it's done. But, yeah. So, those few of you who are still listening, do you understand that the scriptures are not on a rampage? That they're trying to protect women who back then were property. You can't adulterate, which means to corrupt, somebody else's wife. Because if she has a baby from some other man who's not the husband, she's been adulterated. But it does hurt if you find out that your wife is prostituting herself and using contraception. But honey, I was using safe sex. I didn't have a baby from any of the gangbangers. I mean, yeah, it hurts. Because you married her for the sole purpose of wanting to become one with her, not just physically and having babies, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally as well. You wanted her to become your best friend. And so it hurts when your spouse, male or female, betrays you in that way. But understand, women, that when a guy needs to go, he needs to release. He can't stop the gush. And the longer you make him wait to release, you're torturing him. Because his mind gets worse and worse in depravity. Because it's not getting released. But if you saw the movie Willow, Saoirse has captured Mad Mortigan after the tent incident, where he had the the dust of unbreakable hearts, or something like that. And he sees her under the spell of the dust. Seems to be a drug reference there. So no kids, don't do drugs, but none of my videos are for kids. I've had to deal with YouTube as they purposely sabotaged us creators with that new thing. What they needed to do is, if your videos are for kids, you need to then select that your videos are for kids. They should have automatically assumed nothing is for kids on YouTube. But they forced us to go in and say our videos are not for kids, which caused so many problems. But anyway, Mad Mortigan sees her in the tent with the dust spell, and you are my sun, my moon, my guiding star. Without you I dwell in darkness. And then they found that the baby had been stolen, and the guards, she almost fell for it. and so he sneaks a kiss as the tent falls, and then escapes, and then she captures him later on. And while he's tied up on the back of her horse, she asks him, "Did you really mean those things you said in the tent?" And he says, "I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know? It just went away." "I'm your sun, your moon, your guiding star, and without you I dwell in darkness, and it went away?" Yes, women, it literally does. That's the weird thing about it. And so, understand, we married you. We like you. Not just because you allow us to release, but because we actually like you. We like being with you. So, understand the difference. We're not objectifying you. It's our natural instinct. And don't get disappointed when we roll over and go to sleep. What helps is to communicate. So that if you really aren't in the mood, that you've had a trauma and whatever, and yes, it's very uncomfortable for men, as our body is already telling us it's long overdue, and your wife is going through a trauma. Because what does the man do? "Hey honey, I'm ready." But alrighty, we're almost at 50 minutes, and I'm sure I'm talking to myself now. But please understand that scriptures are not the way the prophets are telling you they are. Stay away from other men's wives. And it's okay to have fetishes. And it's okay because you're not having children. But kids are not listening, but I am not encouraging children, because there are so many other factors involved. Because once you get a woman pregnant, you then have to work together, because our society attacks women who are single mothers, victims of rape. And they financially destroy women. They humiliate and shame them in society. The religion condemns them. And what are they supposed to do? Society puts so much pressure on such women to give up their kids. And if it was a situation where the woman was in love with the boy, she's in love with the boy, and wanted a baby from him, hopefully not to abuse him, to, get him to impregnate her and then she abandons him. That's not nice, women. That's what causes further problems in divorce courts and custody hearings, is women who give women a bad name. But there is no equality in our justice system, and that needs to change. And until that happens, just understand it's okay to look at a woman. She's not evil. She's not to be body shamed. But you do have to wonder about a woman who publicly displays herself with no disregard for society. Because again, just being naked doesn't trigger a man. It's being naked that helps the man with the process. That's what he goes to. Sometimes it's audio, sometimes it's most of the time it's visual for guys, especially nowadays with our technology. But the Beastie Boys, Mom threw away your best porno mag. Well, he doesn't go to the porno mag when he wants to do it. No, he goes to the porno mag when it's time to do it. That's how it works. And that's why the joke is, oh, I only get it for the articles. We really have no interest in the articles. So, there it is. That whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of porn, prostitution, which is the adultery. And in this particular case, it's paying a sacral prostitute to have sex. And then you have to ask, well, putting away, it's technically divorcing your wife so that you can pursue paying for sex. That doesn't make any sense. You get it for free. Why would you give up the free to go after paying for it, where you can get all sorts of diseases and such? Alrighty, I think I've covered all the topics of uncomfortable nature. So just love each other. Eros, agape, philo. It's all of what it's about. There's only one law. The 10 Commandments were hedge laws around love. And all the church's standards and values, those are further hedge laws, purposely intended to take Mormons away from love. Because what do Mormons do when they see a woman come to church in a dinner dress or a dancing dress rather than a church dress? I'm familiar with that, as I, as a little kid, have told you about how I wanted to be a woman's fashion designer, but because of the Mormon stigma, I'm not allowed. And yes, it was triggered by Beth, but I have seen women slut shame other women because those women found that the woman who was wearing the particular dress found it inappropriate for church, because all the guys in the singles ward were surrounding her and wanting to get her attention. And so the other women who were not surrounded by guys, yeah, they resorted to not loving their fellow human being. So, alrighty.